The return to Saint Vincent College is the sign of a new season for the Pittsburgh Steelers, with some new faces and young talent. The new-look Pittsburgh team is set to strap up the pads next week, and we have a preview of what to expect coming up next. You are watching Steelers Training Camp All Access on KDKA TV.
Welcome to FedEx Steelers Training Camp All Access.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Steelers Training Camp All Access. I'm Bob Pompeani, joined by my man Chris Hoke. It's Hokey Bros 76. Chris, training camp is just a couple of days away. It's hard to believe we're approaching into August now. And was this the time of the year that you dreaded, or were you happy to get things rolling?
Bob, it depended on what time of year it was for me and in my career. When it was early in my career, I dreaded going to training camp because I was a young guy trying to prove myself, and I just sweated every moment out in Latrobe. But middle of my career, towards the end, I loved going out there. I loved the team-building atmosphere. I loved the ability we had to go out there and strengthen ourselves individually and as a team. It's a great environment to be in when you're trying to build a team to win championships.
I love that emotion he brings here. You know, this camp is going to be a return to normal of sorts as the Steelers once again return to Saint Vincent College for the first time in 3 years. Hard to believe. Let's take a look at the schedule of practices that are open to you, the public. The players will roll into Latrobe on Tuesday, and after they get settled in their dorms, practices start Wednesday the 27th at around 2 p.m. That kicks off 8 straight afternoon practices on the well-manicured fields of St. Vincent. On August the 5th, they're bringing back popular Friday Night Lights practice held at Latrobe Memorial High School Stadium. The second half of training camp looks this way. More afternoon practices open to the public, with August 7th being the team's first day off. Practices resume in earnest through the 11th, at which point open practices pause as they prepare for their first preseason game, which is on the 13th of August. Camp concludes with a final open practice on the afternoon of August the 18th. And, of course, the biggest development of camp this year is the return to fans to St. Vincent College. Due to COVID restrictions, the team held camp at their North Shore for the past 2 years. But fans will be back on those hillsides in Latrobe to restart what has become an annual tradition. So, Chris, how do you feel about the players going back to Latrobe? Be honest with me. Personally, did you like that fan atmosphere that you saw on those hillsides?
I did. It gave me chills looking at those photos because that's a big part of my life, right? I played 11 seasons for the Steelers, so I spent over 11 months of my life in Latrobe, sleeping in those dorms, walking out of that locker room onto the field, seeing all those fans. It was just an amazing atmosphere, Bob. And what I love was the spirit and the energy that these fans bring to practice. When you walk out of that locker room and you see them all around you and they're yelling your name and you're going out there, it just takes you to another level. And I believe it picks up the electricity and the energy of each practice.
Yeah, not many teams are going back to this setting. The Steelers are one of them, and I'm glad they are as well. So the fans will provide that different atmosphere at these practices for the season. But what happens on the field, that's the most important thing. Lots of new faces dot the roster this year, especially on the offensive side of the ball. For a preview of what to watch for in the camp from the offensive side, let's bring in my colleague, Rich Walsh. Hey, Rich.
Hey guys, yeah, and we haven't seen a new face at quarterback in a while, but we will this year. The Steelers offense is a bit of a mystery right now, but it definitely has some potential. For the first time in a long time, the Steelers will have a quarterback battle on their hands at camp. No more number 7 under center. Mike Tomlin said it'll be an open competition for the starting job, but Mitch Trubisky seems to have a leg up after off-season workouts.
I knew coming into the situation, just even coming from here from last year, wherever I was going to go, I was going to have to come in, compete, earn the trust of my teammates, and get back onto the field with hard work and my talent and just being a leader on this team.
Don't count out first-round draft pick Kenny Pickett and longtime backup Mason Rudolph.
I can't control what goes on on the second floor, but I've been told that, and I think I'm excited to do my best to compete to be the guy. So yes, I do.
Trubisky worked mainly with the projected starters during team activities this offseason, followed by Rudolph and Kenny Pickett.
Every practice and the more reps I get, the more comfortable I felt.
Najee Harris is arguably the most important player on offense. He is the running back room. After number 22, there is a big drop-off. Harris will be the focal point, but said to us during minicamp they might use him a little less this year to give his body a rest.
I will be on the field a lot, but I'm not going to, on certain downs, I'm not going to be on the field. Just take off shots, I guess, extra hits.
The offensive line was a priority this offseason. They changed coaches and added a couple free agents. Former Bears guard James Daniels will take over at right guard, and former Viking Mason Cole will handle center duties. Kevin Dotson is healthy now and will battle Kendrick Green for the left guard job. Tight end is one of the strengths of this offense, and Pat Freiermuth will play a big part. And whether it's Trubisky or Pickett, they will have a plethora of young wide receiver options. This year's second-round draft pick, George Pickens, could turn out to be the best of the bunch. But right now, Deontay Johnson is the Steelers' #1 option.
Yeah, I'm just here to work, do what I'm told, and get the job done. That's pretty much my focus, and being around the guys.
Chase Claypool is coming off a disappointing sophomore season, but said this year will be different.
Yeah, I think it's the first time on the Steelers where I felt like, my voice is being actively heard, and I'm taking that seriously. So I'm trying to help the young guys because I was there last year and 2 years ago.
And Anthony Miller had a good rapport with Trubisky in Chicago and will battle 4th-round pick Calvin Austin III for playing time. All right, time now to go inside the game, presented by Saint Vincent College. Replacing Big Ben under center won't be easy, even just from an experience standpoint. Over the course of his career, Roethlisberger started 270 games, and the 4 quarterbacks on the current roster have just over 60 NFL starts combined between all 4 of them. Guys, one thing is for sure this year, these 3 preseason games will be the most important preseason games in a very long time. Guys.
Oh, that's right, Chris. Rich, and you can see them all on KDKA. We're excited to get those things going. So, Chris, obviously, all eyes are going to be on the quarterbacks, as Rich said, in Latrobe. So what are you going to be focusing on to watch in that position battle, especially the first couple of weeks?
Well, I really think this is Mitchell Trubisky's job to lose. So I want to see how he's going to play in these preseason games. Practice is one thing, but what I've learned is in recent years, practices aren't as intense as they used to be. I want to see how he reads the defense. I want to see how he's throwing the ball around, hitting receivers in stride, and that veteran quarterback that he's supposed to be. So I'll be looking at that. But also I want to see how Mason Rudolph, how he responds. I think that he's a guy right now that everybody's counting out. I believe that he should have been given more of a better shot to do it. Kenny Pickett's a darling. We'll see how it plays out. The Steelers want to hold him on the side and let him learn a little bit to get into the system. We'll see how this all plays out, though, Bob.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because all 3 are capable, and we'll find out what it's going to be in that first game on the 13th of August. Meantime, the Steelers aren't just facing an overhaul at quarterback. They're also breaking in some new wide receivers as well. George Pickens and Calvin Austin III were added into the draft, and they have high hopes for Pickens outside, and Austin could get some looks as a replacement for Ray McLeod in the slot. And former Ravens wideout Miles Boykin was brought in as a free agent. He's going to battle it out for one of 2 spots left open by the departures of Juju Smith-Schuster and James Washington. So, Chris, do you think the Steelers, that wide receiver group, takes a step forward this year, or will they miss those guys I just talked about?
I hope they take a step forward. It all depends on, in my opinion, on Chase Claypool. He needs to have a better year than he had last year. Very inconsistent last year. Didn't have the touchdown output that he had in his rookie year, lower than 1,000 yards. So if Deontay Johnson comes in and he plays the way he played last year, eliminate the drops, and Chase Claypool, I think just those 2 alone can really elevate this team and bring those young guys along.
Yeah, we're going to find out. It's going to be interesting to watch them develop quickly in that wide receiver group. So that's an in-depth look at the Steelers offense as training camp approaches. Coming up next, we're going to switch sides and focus on the defense. Stick around. It's all right here on KDKA.
Welcome back to FedEx Steelers Training Camp All Access.
Well, if you're making plans to head out to Saint Vincent next week for Steelers training camp, here is some of the info that you need to know. First, parking lots open at 11:30 in the morning. Gates open 30 minutes later. Tickets for most practices are free, except for the Friday night lights practice, but all ticketing is mobile only and must be obtained through Ticketmaster. Food trucks will be on site for those who are hungry, but they won't be serving dog food. No pets allowed. And with some recent contract extensions, the Steelers' defense is now the highest paid unit in the NFL. Can fans expect their results to match that payroll? For those answers and more, Rich, take it away.
All right, Bob, if you have the highest paid defense, there should be high expectations, and there are inside and outside the organization. There's no question the defense is the strength of this year's team. On defense, it all starts up front for the Steelers with Cam Hayward, who has been one of the most consistent players for the Steelers for the last decade, also one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. But the line looks a little different this season. Stephon Tuitt retired, and the Steelers signed Larry Ogunjobi. The Steelers will also roll with a healthy Tyson Alualu, and Chris Wormley ended last season strong with 5.5 sacks in the last 5 games. There is no doubt the Steelers have the best outside linebacker in the game. In fact, T.J. Watt might be the best defensive player in the NFL.
I still feel great. I feel like my best football is ahead of me, so I'm very excited for this season.
Opposite of Watt is Alex Highsmith, who's hoping to get to double-digit sacks this season. But after those guys, depth is an issue. Now inside, the Steelers upgraded, adding Myles Jack.
A chance to, make a couple plays, get my name back out there and see what happens. But first and foremost, I'm just here to be a part of the Steelers and win games and contribute, because this defense is very, very talented up front and in the back.
Jack might be able to help Devin Bush become the player everyone hopes he can be.
I get a chance to play football again how I want to, for real. I get the chance to go out there and be myself, and I feel like I'm starting a whole new slate, and I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Part of the Steelers secondary will look a little different this season. The Steelers moved on from Joe Hayden. They're hoping Akello Witherspoon and free agent Levi Wallace are the answer.
I'm just a playmaker. I study film to the point where I just jump routes, and it sometimes gets you in trouble, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm an aggressive corner. You have to be in this league to stand out and make plays.
Cam Sutton is the veteran of this group and the Steelers' Mr. Versatility. Sutton is expected to start opposite of one of those two guys on the outside. Now, the Steelers made a big investment this offseason, making Minkah Fitzpatrick the highest-paid safety in the league.
That we got it done in the timing that we got it done, and I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to be able to to be a Pittsburgh Steeler for the long run.
Fitzpatrick is the leader and playmaker in the secondary, but he'll have some help. The Steelers re-signed Terrell Edmunds after he tested the free agent market, and also added ball hawk DeMonte Casey to the unit. And last year, the defense struggled at times, but take a look at these rankings. They were in the lower third of the league in both total yards and points allowed, but they were actually in the top 10 in some key statistics versus the pass. In the end, it was the run defense that let them down, as they ranked dead last in both yards and yards per carry on the ground. Obviously, the run game was a huge disappointment, but a healthy defensive line, Chris can attest to that, and adding Larry Ogunjobi and Myles Jack should turn things around. Guys?
All right, Rich, one player who could be the key to this Steelers' defensive success is outside linebacker Alex Highsmith. The third-year pro is firmly entrenched opposite T.J. Watt and has shown flashes of brilliance at times. For an inside look at Highsmith's season last year, let's check out Merril Hoge and his playbook.
Hi, everyone. Welcome into the Factor Back Studios. It's the off season. What does that mean? If you're a real good pro, that means you're getting better at being a better pro. And a guy who did that for the Steelers this year was Alex Highsmith. From his rookie year to his second year is when you see your most improvement. Well, we definitely saw it in him. In every phase of football from a defensive perspective, how he handles the run, rushing the quarterback, and then those unique things that make him special, his relentless pursuit, which we'll get to. So let's start right away with how he defends the run. This is probably the most important thing from any defender, because you got to be able to handle the run and get off of blocks. Well, this cat right here, Alex Highsmith, one of the best on the Steelers at doing just that. But let's see how he goes about doing it. So we snap the ball. I want you to watch his feet, hips, and hands, because that's where it all starts. First contact wins. So when you think about feet, hips, and hands, he has this tight end in absolute control. You can see with his hands inside, his leverage, he's controlling that tight end. That tight end is not controlling him. Now he's eyeing the runner. Watch how quickly he sheds him and gets to the ball carrier. He not only gets the ball carrier, but then you see his arms as they come around, how he wraps up and he tackles. I mean, this is an individual, amazing play. And then this one right here, this is what really separates him at being a terrific football player. He's relentless. Let's see here, this is a draw play. Okay, he's all the way over here. Easy to quit. Easy to say that runner's all the way over here. Probably not going to have an effect on this play. I want you to watch his pursuit and what happens here. Well, that runner ends up coming back. Now I'm going to stop it right there, okay? If he stays back here, this guy is gone because he continues to play and his pursuit is so outstanding, he makes the tackle. When you study Alex Highsmith all season, listen, T.J. Watt kind of stole the show, the defensive MVP, but Alex Highsmith is going to get better and better, and he's going to be that beautiful complement to the MVP on the other side.
All right, Merril, thanks. And our thanks to Steelers TV for that feature. Chris, how do you feel about the outside linebacker position? Obviously, Watt is a superstar.
Yep.
Highsmith looks good, but do they have enough depth?
That's what I'm worried about. You know, I want to see Highsmith get a little better this year and take a step forward in the passing game. He's got to get more than 6 sacks to help this defense out. Where I'm worried about is T.J. Watt likes to take himself off the field from time to time to rest so he can give maximum effort when he's in there. And Tuska, I don't know if Derek Tuska is the guy to be the guy go in there and get quality snaps. I mean, T.J., listen, he'll come off when they're in the red zone. And so he needs to be able to step in there and put pressure on the quarterback and play tough in the run. And that's what I want to watch in training camp in the first part of that season, because right now, I'm not so sure if the depth is there at that outside linebacker position.
And injuries are a factor. Every year we see it, and that depth could be tested. Coming up next, we're going to take a look at the preseason schedule and discuss what fans should be watching for as those games get underway. Stay tuned. We're coming back in a flash.
Welcome back to FedEx Steelers Training Camp All Access.
Oh, yeah, Hokie, bro, you ready is the question.
You know I'm ready.
You always have that game face on. Our thanks to the Vindies for presenting that. And personally, I'm already ready to go here to call some of these preseason games right here on your home for Steelers football. That's KDKA TV. Let's check out when those games will take place. And there are 3 preseason games, not 4. Remember that. It's 2 at home, 1 on the road. The first game will mark the debut of Acrisure Stadium against the Seahawks on Saturday, August the 13th. 1 week later, we all head down to Jacksonville for their only preseason road game, and then we wrap up the 3-game set at home against Detroit on Sunday afternoon, August 28th. All 3 preseason games seen right here on KDKA TV. So, Chris, we talked about what to watch for when it comes to quarterbacks in training camp. What about the preseason games? How do you think they're going to rotate these guys? Does Pickett start a game?
I don't think he'll start a game. I really don't. I think that they're going to go out there and see what kind of rhythm Mitch Trubisky can get in. They want to see how he can run with that first-team offense. And I believe that first-team offense will get a few more snaps this preseason than they have in the past because they want to get those guys together and develop some rhythm. Then you look at Mason Rudolph. He'll come in. Kenny Pickett will play the second half. He may get some early snaps, Bob. But I think primarily this is going to be kind of a redshirt year for Kenny, hopefully, unless there's injuries.
Well, regardless of who starts a quarterback, the guys protecting him are going to need to improve from a lackluster 2021 season. They addressed the offensive line somewhat in the signings of James Daniels, good player, Mason Cole, but they didn't draft anyone up front. So do you think they did enough to help that offensive line, which was much maligned last year?
It's a wait and see. For me, I don't know if they did enough, Bob. Last year they struggled, and the reason why they had a tough time running the football when it mattered is because they couldn't get movement on the offensive line. Now they got a new coach coming in, Pat Myers. They didn't go out and draft anybody. They didn't get a high-flying free agent man. So we'll see. But right now, there are a lot of people, Bob, that are saying that they're going to struggle on the offensive line. And I'm hoping they do well because this is going to be the one thing that's going to hold this team back.
Yeah, guys like Dan Moore Jr., man, he was baptism by fire last year, so that should help him at least. Coming up, we're going to take a closer look at the addition of Myles Jack and what he means to the Steelers' run defense. Training Camp All Access returns right after this.
Welcome back to FedEx Steelers Training Camp All Access.
Well, one of the biggest facets the Steelers will surely be working on when training camp starts on Wednesday is their run defense. Take a look at how they've done stopping the run the past 3 seasons because it has been a downward trend for sure. 3 years ago, they allowed less than 4 yards per carry. They ranked in the top 10 against the run. But since then, they've gotten progressively worse, culminating last year with this gaudy average of 5 yards allowed per rush. To try to address that, the Steelers added inside linebacker Myles Jack in free agency. He was the Jags' leading tackler last year, but was released for cap savings. He signed a 2-year deal with the Steelers. He's expected to pair with Devin Bush at middle linebacker. So, Chris, what impact do you think Jack could have on this defense and also Devin Bush?
I think he's going to bring a lot of speed to this defense. He's very fast sideline to sideline. What I want to see is, can he play downhill? Can he help stop that run and stop the bleeding? The worst rushing defense in the NFL last year. That is unheard of here in Pittsburgh. But I believe that he's going to have a lot of impact on Devin Bush. I think the mental part of the game, with Myles Jack being a veteran, being a leader of a defense in Jacksonville, even though they weren't that good, he could have an impression on Devin Bush and help him come along, and together they could be pretty dang good, Bob.
Yeah, they hope for that for sure. Almost done here on the first of 3 editions of Steelers Training Camp All Access. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the camp schedules ahead of event returning to Saint Vincent College. That's next. All right, once again, for the first time in 3 years, the Steelers will practice under the lights out at Latrobe High School. The popular Friday Night Lights event will take place on the second Friday night of camp. That's August the 5th. Tickets are $5 and can be purchased right now at Latrobe High School Stadium, or you can do it on Ticketmaster August the 5th. All right, let's take a look at some of the other stuff. As we said, these are the dates early on. They're all 155 practices open to the public. Again, August 5th is the night practice at 7. Take a look at week number 2, and you'll see all these times remain the same and open to the public. So, Chris, final word. Right now, if you look at Vegas odds, 7.5 wins, over under for you, for the Steelers.
That seems a little low for me, right? I think the Steelers are going to have more wins than 7.5. I see something like last year, maybe 9-8. I think it's about 9-8. I'm not sure if they'll make the playoffs, but they'll surprise some people this season with some big wins.
They need to get better offensively, no question about that. And that's going to do it for us. For Rich Walsh, Chris Hoke, I'm Bob Pompeani. Thanks for joining us. Next week, we will be on site at Latrobe, Saint Vincent College for training camp. We will see you next Saturday night. Thanks for watching.